Well, if you're looking for trouble, here I am. Well, if you wanna see double, here I am. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen. This week we are doing another movie review. This is Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, starring the legendary Cassandra Peterson in the role she made famous as Elvira. And I had the distinct honor and pleasure of meeting this lovely lady at Boston Comic-Con a couple of years ago. Also saw her last year at the Scaricon. Just showing off a few things here. This is also kind of a celebration of Elvira, as she's been doing her thing for so long now. Wanted to pay a little tribute. Had her sign that one too, Femme Fatale. And last but not least, this is her action figure, which when I showed it to her to sign, she talked about how she didn't like this one, how it wasn't a very good likeness. And I was like, oh, I like it. I know it's not as beautiful as you, but... And she's like, oh, tell me more. Okay, guys, so Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, was directed by James Signorelli, and it came out in 1988. And it's a comedy/horror of sorts. It's definitely a perfect showcase for Cassandra Peterson's talent. And her great witty sense of humor and her charm and her beauty. It's just a perfect showcase for everything. So we begin, and she's doing her thing as the horror hostess of a TV show. Like one of those midnight horror marathons like she always has done. So that's how the movie begins. And the TV station informs her that her aunt had passed away. And they're doing a reading of the will. So she goes to the small town of Falwell, Massachusetts, where they're totally freaked out by her presence. They're not used to seeing someone as sexy and seductive looking as her, and wild looking. So they're kind of freaked out by it. They're not ready, There's such a small town that basically lives like they're living in the 1800s, So she goes to the reading of the will, and she meets her uncle. And so it turns out her uncle got nothing in the will. And Elvira got everything. She got the estate, which is a big Gothic mansion, but it's all beat up, and cobwebs and everything. Classic haunted house looking style. And she also inherited a recipe book, cookbook, which, as it turns out, has some kind of hidden powers, And this guy, her uncle, is after that book because he wants to wreak havoc on the entire town and use its powers for evil. He's some kind of evil, kind of cult leader or something, So yeah, as I said, it's such a perfect showcase for her talents. She's so incredibly witty, and she throws the sexual innuendo all over the place, the one-liners everywhere you look. And she just looks fantastic while doing it. She even has a couple musical numbers where she gets to show off her singing talents, as well as her dancing talent. And that's really cool to see, too. But yeah, once she moves into the mansion that she inherited, it turns out to be haunted. She starts having crazy dreams and seeing weird things and seeing ghosts and things, and that's what makes this kind of a nice little spooky, fun comedy, in the vein of something like a Hocus Pocus or a Halloween Town or something. Maybe a little more sexy than that, but it's kind of on that level. I think kids can definitely enjoy it. Maybe not little kids, but teens from like 13 and up, could really enjoy this film. So I highly recommend it. And so when she moves into the mansion, she finds out that the uncle just wants to get hold of that book, and so the uncle goes to visit her and tries to get the book from her by offering her money, but she doesn't take it. And there's also these like little perv kids who are like 15 years old. They try and peek in on her, try and take pictures of her while she's getting undressed and stuff. But she kind of suckers them into helping her rebuild the house. So they end up painting her house in kind of an interesting style, with like crazy colors, really off the wall looking. But yeah, next thing you know, like whole town's like helping her out, helping her fix the mansion. And she goes around town trying to look for a job, but no one will hire her because they can't deal with her crazy sexiness and, her goth look, But so she runs into this guy who works for the movie theater, and he owns the business, he owns the theater. And she's like, what are you doing? You're showing these clunker movies. You need to show stuff like Dr. Satan and the Revenge of Dr. Satan. And he's like, what? And she's like, oh, I have the perfect idea. So she has everyone in town come in to see one of these, the cheesy, campy B movies that she always shows during her midnight horror-thons. And she does commentary at the movie theater while sitting on the couch in the full regalia, making her little witty comments. It's really fun. It's so fun. I was so glad that they put that in there, and it's such a joy to watch her because she's incredibly charming, incredibly talented, very funny, incredibly witty. And I just enjoy the hell out of this movie. It's so much fun. So once the uncle shows his true nature and gets hold of the book, he starts trying to wreak havoc on the whole town, And it's up to Elvira to stop him. Elvira and her boyfriend and several townsfolk that are on her side and that do like her, and versus the other stuck-up people that are so set in their old ways that hate her, So it's like Elvira and her cronies against the cronies that from the supposedly good, pure side of the town. And it's a real battle of wits, and she's also battling the crazy, evil uncle. And there's all kinds of craziness and madness and horror that ensues. And it's such a fun movie, so I highly recommend Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. I give it 2 devil horns up. And thank you for joining me, folks. Sean Patrick Erschen in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared.